are functioning as human beings. What are the three pillars of Islah that Surat Hud brings forward? That Hud alayhi salam actually brought forward in his wording, which is why the surah was named after him. Because if you go to the story of Hud in the surah itself, you'll find that Hud actually explained to his qawm the three pillars of Islah and the way that he responded to them and the way that he spoke to them, which were later summarized in these last few verses. The Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith narrated by Imam Bayhaqi and others, he was asked, one of the Sahaba pointed out that he had some gray hairs in his beard and in his head. They did it as a joke. They were just smiling with him, alayhi salatu wasalam. Shibta ya Rasulullah. Yeah, there's salt now amongst the pepper. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم, and he took it as a joke, but he did point out something. قال شيبتني هود وأخواتها. Hud has brought me shayb. In another hadith, another riwayah of the same hadith, the Prophet ﷺ actually recited out the beginning of the verses that I recited to you. فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. He began from those verses that have brought me shayb. I've aged because of these verses, because of the concept of these verses are explaining. Now you might wonder, well, why is it? What about these verses are so? It's because carrying reform, bringing reform to yourself and to the world around you is an extremely heavy responsibility. It's very dire. It's very difficult. So, when you think about it, when you actually contemplate the concept of doing it to others, bringing the world reform, you feel like it's almost impossible. How can I possibly do this properly? In addition, every single prophet within the surah itself, the people, the qawm, didn't end up doing too well. Think of the stories: Nuh, Hud and Salih, Shu'aib, Lut, and Musa. Which of these 6 prophets, their people did well? None. All of them were punished. The verses would end, ألا بعدا لعاد قوم هود ألا بعدا لثمود ألا بعدا لمدين كما بعدت ثمود. This is how Surat Hud addresses the end of these nations. The Prophet ﷺ was actually worried that بعدا لمكة or Quraysh was coming next. This is how he was thinking, ﷺ. He was worried that this wouldn't work out, that he would bring reform and it would fail, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would punish his people, which worried him. This is not what he wanted. He did not want punishment to come upon his own people, ﷺ. So it was an issue of a real concern for him, ﷺ. But what do the surah actually tell us as the 3 pillars of Islah? I want you to take these and think about them. There are 3 pillars. If you're someone who is going to start on this journey, and you may at some point say, well, why do I need even to do this? I'll explain to you in a moment why you need to do this. The number one pillar, فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ وَمَنْ تَابَ مَعَكَ. فَاسْتَقِمْ. As he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the known hadith sahih, when he was asked, what do I say? What do I do in this? قَالَ قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ. This known hadith. Say, I believe, and then walk the straight path. What does fastaqim actually mean? Is it literal? Is it literal? No. Your answer is obviously no. Am I not allowed to walk in a diagonal? Am I not allowed to walk out of the masjid and swerve and curve to find where I do need to always walk a straight path? No, it definitely does not have a literal meaning. You already know that. Then what does it actually mean figuratively? Al-istiqama is incorruptibility. It's someone not being susceptible to corruption. Someone mustaqim. If you're going to define someone like that, if you're going to describe someone like that, if I ask you about fulan or illan or fulana, and you say fulan or fulana is mustaqim or mustaqima, then what you mean by that is this person doesn't lie, this person doesn't take shortcuts, this person doesn't betray, this person doesn't look for ways out of something, out of a commitment or out of an obligation. This person will always tell it to you straight, right? I'll give it to you straight, always tell you the truth. We even define istiqamah that way. This is someone who is not corruptible. This is someone who is not corrupt. That's how you understand istiqamah. Someone who's bringing reform cannot be corrupt by definition. By definition, if you are a muslih, if you're someone bringing, you cannot be. If you are, then by definition, you are the problem now. If someone is corrupt on any level, then they can't be muslih. They are the problem. They are the target of the muslihin. Those who are bringing reform actually target that person as something to change or someone to remove. Because corruption is the #1 enemy. Any type of corruption, doesn't matter. Financial corruption, political corruption, social corruption, spiritual and religious corruption. It doesn't, ethical corruption, doesn't matter. All aspects and all types of corruption are the real problem. #1 pillar of Islah is istiqamah. We have to be people of integrity. We cannot be corrupt ourselves. That requires each and every one of us to take a step back and evaluate their lives. Evaluate every aspect of their existence. That's why you have to look inward first. Before you can do istiqamah, before you can do islah, you have to have istiqamah. You have to take a step back. My rizq, is it halal? Mu'amalati, the way I deal with people. Am I always honest? Am I someone trustworthy? Do I betray? These questions have to be asked in depth. Because as people, we carry that front. Meaning no one here is going to say, no, I lie to people. That's who I am. No, everyone claims to have istiqamah. We all do. But whether you actually have that or not is something that only you know and only you can evaluate. Because as human beings, we hold up, we put this front up. You only know of me what I'm willing to let you know of me. Just like I only know about you whatever you're going to show me. I don't have access to the inner part of you. No one does, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you're the one who knows. We all know ourselves on the inside. But sometimes, very easily, the human being can not only lie to the world around them, the human being can lie to themselves. And we can convince ourselves that we are what we are not. People will do this. This is the scary part. People will do this until they come Yawm al-Qiyamah. And they swear to God that they are what they're not. يوم يبعثهم الله جميعا فيحلفون له كما يحلفون لكم. And they'll swear to God just like they swear to you. ويحسبون أنهم على شيء. And they believe that they're correct because they believe their own lies. Because they believe their own lies. #1 pillar, al-istiqamah. We have to be people of integrity. We cannot afford to be corrupt on any level. That requires self-awareness and self-purification as the #1 pillar. إخواني وأخواتي أعود بعد رمضان للحديث عن محور المئين في القرآن من يونس إلى الرعد. هذه السور التي يتناول كل منها جانبا من جوانب الدين فيتحدث عن قضية في هذا الجانب محورية وجوهرية للتطبيق الشرعي والإسلامي. هناك مواضيع في الدين إذا لم يطبقها الإنسان ذهب جوهر الدين وإن كان ظاهره موجودا لدى الإنسان. وهذه قضية مهمة ومخيفة جدا. وكل سورة من هذه السور تتناول جانبا من هذه الجوانب الشرعية وتتحدث عن مواضيع معينة إذا تم تفريغ الدين منها فرغ الإنسان من جوهر الدين وإن كان ظاهره على الإسلام. وابتدأت الحديث عن سورة هود. وسورة هود تتحدث عن رسالة الإسلام، حمل الرسالة إلى الناس، وتتحدث ضمن الرسالة عن الإصلاح. إذا فرغ الإسلام من معنى الإصلاح فرغت الرسالة نفسها من مضمونها. يجب أن يكون الإسلام قائم على الإصلاح، إصلاح الإنسان نفسه وإصلاح المجتمع من حوله. وذكرت لكم تحديات الأنبياء عليهم الصلاة والسلام الذين وردت قصصهم في هذه السورة. فذكرت لكم تحديات نوح عليه السلام وهود وصالح وإبراهيم، وتركت أنبياء 3 سأتحدث عنهم إن شاء الله في المستقبل، لوط وشعيب وموسى. لكن اليوم ألخص لكم أركان الإصلاح التي ذكرتها السورة في آخرها، ثم الخطوات التي علينا أن نأخذها لأنفسنا لنطبق هذا المعنى. فالركن الأول للإصلاح هو ركن الاستقامة، فاستقم كما أمرت ومن تاب معك. شيبت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم هذه الآية أن نستقيم. الاستقامة عين الكرامة. ليس في الشرع من بعد الاستقامة شيء يبتغى. وإنما إذا رزق الإنسان الاستقامة الصحيحة أن يمشي على صراط الله المستقيم في حياته فقد أوتي خيرا كثيرا ولم يؤت إنسان مثل ما أوتي. لكن الاستقامة معنى على الإنسان أن يراجع نفسه فيها. لا يمكن للآخرين أن يعرفوك إذا كنت مستقيما أم لا. لا يعرف حال استقامتك إلا أنت والله سبحانه وتعالى. يراجع الإنسان نفسه ليعرف إن كان مستقيما أم لا، ليعرف إن كان صادقا في قيله، صادقا في حاله، قد أطاب مطعمه ومشربه. إذا سألتك عن إنسان وقلت لي فلان مستقيم، إذا أنت في خاطرك هذا إنسان ما بيكذب، ما بيلف، ما بيدور، ما بينصب، أمين، ما بيكذب. هذا فهمنا للاستقامة، وهذا فهم صحيح استخدمت الكلمة من أجل فهم الناس لها. The second pillar in the verse فاستقم كما أمرت ومن تاب معك ولا تطغوا إنه بما تعملون بصير. Indeed he sees all. Do not perform طغيان. What is طغيان? طغيان is two things. It's arrogance and it's oppression when they're fused together. That's what طغيان is. As someone who is bringing reform, you cannot be the thing that you despise most. If you hate oppressors, if you hate tyrants, you cannot become one yourself. We cannot replace one tyranny, one form of tyranny with another one. The moment that we become arrogant, the moment the muslih, the moment the person who's bringing this message of reform looks at people who are not walking the same path that they are walking, or are not following the orders that they are giving, or are not listening to the advice that they are offering, the moment you feel arrogant towards those people, that is طغيان. You've already, this doesn't work anymore. We are not allowed, as people who are bringing Islam, as people bringing reform, Islamic reform to the world, to start looking down at people, at others who aren't following the footsteps that we're walking in, or who are not walking our same path. That is completely out of the question. That is unacceptable. What's the point if there's a tyrant and you want to remove oppression only to replace it with your version of oppression? How is that acceptable? وَلَا تَطْغَوْا. Violence and coercion has no place in Islam at all. We are not allowed to use it in any way, at any time, towards anybody. This is a problem that we face today, because there's so many oppressors and tyrants out there that are forcing people to do that which is incorrect. Does that justify for someone who's bringing al-haqq to be a tyrant with al-haqq itself, to force people to follow al-haqq, to force people to live a life that they believe to be correct, or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains to be correct? The answer is no. وَلَا تَطْغَوْا. Do not oppress. Do not become arrogant. You don't look, no. You're bringing reform, you don't, nothing the other group is doing can justify you doing something similar, ever, period. There's no clearer concept within Islam itself. Fulan zalim, zalamni. Fulan, I've been oppressed. Does that allow me? Can I rationalize being an oppressor towards them specifically? Because no. ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم أن تعتدوا. The Quran says it twice. Do not allow the hatred of those who oppressed you or mistreated you. Do not let that make you someone who's an oppressor or a transgressor. No. They oppressed, that's them. That's how they think. When you have the ability, you will treat them with justice and rahmah, because that's who you are as a Muslim. وَلَا تَطْغَوْا. We're not allowed. What's the opposite of طغيان? What's the opposite of arrogance or oppression? Isn't that justice and compassion? Isn't that the opposite of oppression, justice, and arrogance, humbleness, showing compassion to others? وَلَا تَطْغَوْا. Be the opposite of that. You carry this message you don't carry this message as judges, where we judge how well people are doing. We carry this message as servants to help people become better. We are not in any way tyrants ourselves. وَلَا تَطْغَوْا, the second pillar. أما الركن الثاني فنبذ الطغيان ونبذ العنف. لا ينبغي لحامل الإصلاح، لا ينبغي للمصلح أن يصبح ذات الشيء الذي جاء ليخلص الناس منه. أتيت لتخلص الناس من فساد في الاقتصاد والاجتماع والسياسة. أتيت لتخلص الناس من الظلم فتصبح ظالما، لكن باسم الدين هذا أسوأ. الظلم باسم الظلم معروف ومشهور، الظلم باسم الباطل أمر منتشر عبر التاريخ، أما الظلم باسم الدين فهذا أسوأ ما يكون. لا ينبغي للمسلم وللمصلح أن يطغى أبدا أبدا. الطغيان جمع الظلم مع التكبر، هذا لا ينبغي للمسلم. أتيت لتصلح أحوال الناس، تصلحها برحمة، بعدل، بإحسان، وليس بتكبر عليهم ولا تجبر ولا لنظرة فوقية عليهم لأنهم لم يتبعوك أو لم يسمعوك. لا نستبدل ظلما بظلم آخر، لا نستبدل طاغية بطاغية آخر. The third pillar of Islah in this surah. ولا تركنوا إلى الذين ظلموا فتمسكم النار. You don't give in, you don't sell out. It's this balance. You have to have integrity yourself. You have to be incorruptible. You're walking this very straight and very delicate path. You can't go to the right where you become a tyrant, where you start oppressing people in the name of the message. You can't do that. And you can't go to the left where you sell out, where you give up on some of your fundamental principles. الركون ولا تركنوا. Don't give up. Don't get too chummy with those who are oppressive. Don't start giving up, selling out on some of your fundamental values and principles because you want to fit in, because you want them to accept you. وَلَن تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُم. People won't accept you until you become exactly what they are. That's how life is. It's just to simplify this. No one's going to be fully happy with you until you leave what you have and you go and join what they're doing. There's no point in ever selling out. And we see this is more of a problem here than the other one is. I don't see a lot of tughyan, alhamdulillah, here at least. I see it elsewhere, but not here, not in the community that we live in. But I see a lot of rukun. I see a lot of it, of people just slowly giving up, letting go of some of the fundamental values that they carry within their hearts and in their minds as Muslims. They know this is the truth, and they start giving them up one by one, losing the essence of what it meant to be a Muslim. In order for reform to occur, you walk the straight path, you don't oppress, and you don't sell out. وَلَا تَرْكَنُوا. Which is the scary part. Living in a society where we are a minority and the other culture is victorious both on a historical level, on a social level, on a popularity level. It's easy to give out. It's easy to sell out. It's easy to start saying, well, maybe I don't need to do this. Well, maybe this part of Islam is not that important. Well, maybe it's not as haram as the Sheikh seems to think it is. Maybe there's some fatwa that can allow me to do this or allow me to do that. Be very, very careful. Be very, very careful. وَلَا تَرْكَنُوا. Do not give up. Do not sell out. Don't start moving towards that which you came to bring reform to. You bring this message to actually achieve reform, to change these things. Don't start becoming a part of that. أما الركن الثالث فعدم الركون. لا يركن أحدنا إلى ما وقع فيه الظالمون. لا نركن إلى سلوكياتهم ولا إلى أخلاقهم ولا إلى قيمهم، وإنما نستمسك بذلك الذي أوحي إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. نستمسك بديننا ومبادئنا وأخلاقنا. الركون هو المشكلة الكبرى في هذا المجتمع. الطغيان قليل هنا، موجود في مناطق أخرى من العالم الإسلامي. لو كنت أعطي هذه الخطبة في مكان آخر لأكثرت الحديث عن الطغيان وأقللت الكلام عن الركون، لكن في هذا المجتمع ونحن أقلية في بلد قد غلب عليها أهلها من غير المسلمين وقد اشتهر أحوالهم وقد انتشرت مبادئهم، أصبح الخوف علينا وعلى أبنائنا أن نركن إليهم وأن نساوم. ودوا لو تدهنوا فيدهنون. أن نبيع بعض مبادئنا، أن نبيع شيئا من أخلاقنا، أن نتنازل عن شيء من ثوابتنا. فلننتبه إلى مثل هذا. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم يا فوز المستغفرين. استغفر الله. الحمد لله وحده وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبع نهجه ووفى عهده. سألت السيدة زينب رضي الله عنها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Zainab once asked the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام about a catastrophe that was going to occur upon a group of people. Amongst them were people who were of good caliber. were salihin, people who were pious. So she asked the question specifically, and she said, Ya Rasulullah, anahlaku wa feena salihun. Will we be, is it possible for a group to be punished and amongst them are salihun, are pious? فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم نعم إذا كثر الخبث. Yes, if they are outnumbered, then yes. Because the issue was never of having just pious people. That was never what was going to protect a society. Having pious and good people doesn't protect societies. Then what does? Go to Surat Hud, to the end of that page. وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ لِيُهْلِكَ الْقُرَى بِظُلْمٍ وَأَهْلُهَا مُصْلِحُونَ. مُصْلِحُونَ. Those who, Allah subhanahu would never punish a group as long amongst them are people who are bringing reform. People who are trying to change the status quo. People who are trying to change the norm that is corrupt. As long as there are muslihun, Allah subhanahu will not punish a group. But the moment there are no muslihun, there's no one left to actually see what is wrong and start working on changing it, that is when, yes, punishment can occur. Punishment can occur. Na'am, إذا كثر الخبث. That's why this is, you cannot say, I don't want to be a part of this. This khutbah means nothing to me because I don't want to be a part of reform. Wala ghiru. I pray, I fast, I have a family, I don't need, no, you do. You do, you don't have a choice. I'm sorry. You're in this ship with me. You're on the ship with me. Either we sink together or we sail together. You make the choice, but you don't get to stand out. There's no life, a small boat you can jump out on and then go sail on your own. Doesn't exist. You're in this with me. We're all in this together. We have to do this. There's no other way. There's no other way. This is what the Quran explains. This is what you have to do. What are the 5 things that the surah at the end tells us? The 5 steps that you need to take. You understood the 3 pillars. Integrity, istiqamah, incorruptibility. No tughyan, we're not allowed to oppress. We cannot turn into oppressors. No rukun, we're not allowed to sell out. Those are the 3 pillars of bringing reform. Now, what are the practical steps that you and I can take? Number 1, just go to the verses today. I want you today, when this khutbah is done, go to Surat Hud, go from Fastaqim Kama Umirt, and read the verses until the end. Just read those ayat until the end and see if this makes sense to you when you read them, because it's all there. Number 1, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ ذَلِكَ ذِكْرَى لِلذَّاكِرِينَ. Number 1, your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The number 1 step is you have to build a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ. Make sure that you're speaking to Him. Make sure that there's a connection. Salat is in its essence a connection. Make sure it's there. Without that connection, reform is impossible. Number 2, وَاصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. You have to be consistent. You have to be perseverant. ثبات. You can't try reform for a while, get shot down a number of times, and then give up. If we all did that, there would be no one left to give khutbahs. If we all tried to do this, and every time we got shot down, mistreated, or told something that we don't like, we say, you know what, I don't need this. I don't need to spend any time doing this. I can easily give a khutbah at my house with a couple of my family members and never come and do any of this or have to deal with the difficulties that are a part of addressing a community. But no, we have to. Wasbir, you have to show perseverance. Number 3, فَلَوْلَا كَانَ مِنَ الْقُرُونِ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ أُولُو بَقِيَّةٍ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْفَسَادِ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّنْ أَنْجَيْنَا مِنْهُمْ. There has to be those who continuously point out corruption to protect people from the consequences of allowing corruption to continuously exist. We have to protect our people from corruption by pointing it out, by preventing harm. أُولُو بَقِيَّةٍ. There has to be some people left. That's what the verse is saying. There has to be some of you left who will continuously point out corruption and protect their people from it. Number 4, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَجَعَلَ النَّاسَ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ. Division. Number 4, do not be a part of division. Do what you will. Do not cause division where you live as a Muslim. Do not be a force of division for Muslims. Do not be a force or of division for Muslims. Do what you will. Don't do that though. Don't be a reason for the ummah to yet again divide again. Don't do that. That is one of the cardinal sins on a communal level. Always make sure that you're a force of stability, a force of unity. Extremely important. And the 5th one in the surah, وَقُلِ اعْمَلُوا عَلَى مَكَانَتِكُمْ إِنَّا عَامِلُونَ وَانْتَظِرُوا إِنَّا مُنْتَظِرُونَ. Do what you know is right. Let others do what they're going to do, what they think is right. Do your part. Continuously just focus on your work. ثقافة العمل, the concept of carrying the responsibility and doing the job. Don't wait for anyone. This, what I'm talking about, is not my responsibility or the responsibility of the shiuch who stand here. This is everyone's responsibility, but we all do it differently. We all serve this in a different way, on a different capacity, in a different manner. But we are all held responsible and accountable for this Yawm al-Qiyamah. These are the 5 steps the surah talks about. Make sure you have a good relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Reform doesn't happen without that. Make sure that you're perseverant. Make sure that you continuously point out corruption and you protect your community from it. Do not cause division and carry the responsibility on your own. Just do your part. If no one around you is doing it, it doesn't make a difference. You're still doing it. Just do what you know is the right thing to do. أختم الخطبة بخطوات ذكرتها السورة لتحقيق الإصلاح. صاحب الأركان الثلاثة: الاستقامة ونبذ الطغيان وعدم الركون. فالأولى: أقم الصلاة. يجب أن تكون بينك وبين الله علاقة، فإن ذهبت هذه الصلة بينك وبين الله لم يكن للإصلاح معنى. الخطوة الثانية: صبر. يجب أن نصبر. الإصلاح طريق طويل وشاق مشى فيه الأنبياء من قبلنا، مشى فيه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والمصلحون من قبلنا، وهو طريق صعب لا يخلو من مصاعب تجدها يومية. أمرنا بالصبر. الثالث: دفع الضر. يجب علينا كمسلمين أن ندفع الضر عن أنفسنا وعن غيرنا، وأن ننهى عن الفساد في الأرض ما دمنا أحياء. الرابع: لا نسبب اختلافا، لا نسبب فرقة، وإنما نبقى من الذين يجمعون المسلمين ونكون مصدر وحدة للمسلمين في أي مكان عشنا. اعمل ما شئت لا تفرق الناس. أما الخطوة الخامسة: فاعمل. لا تنتظر غيرك ليعمل، إنما اعمل. ولو لم يبقى غيرك عاملا في طريق الإصلاح لكفى. لا تنتظر من أحد أن يقوم بمهمة قد كلفك الله سبحانه وتعالى بها. And that is the conclusion or the end of Surat Hud. It talked about the message. The critical point within the message of Islam is reform. And it talked about it from 7 different angles. And then it ended the surah with a very important recipe: the 3 pillars and the 5 steps. If you understand them, then you know what your role is as a Muslim living in any society, anywhere on earth. You know exactly what the pillars that you're going to adhere to as Islah and the steps you're going to be taking so that you can actually do this properly. We will start by talking, inshallah, about Surat Yunus next week, بإذن الله تعالى. واعلموا أن الله أمرنا بأمر عظيم فقال: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وارض اللهم عن الأربعة الخلفاء السادة الحنفاء أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي، وارض اللهم عن زوجاته أمهات المؤمنين وعن آله الطيبين الطاهرين وعن صحابته الغر الميامين وعن التابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين، وعنا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم فرج هموم المهمومين ونفس كروب المكروبين وارفع الغم عن المغمومين واحقن دماءنا ودماء المسلمين. اللهم ارفع الظلم عن المظلومين. اللهم رد المسجد الأقصى إلى رحاب المسلمين. اللهم يا رب انصر إخواننا المرابطين في المسجد الأقصى وارفع الظلم عن كل مضطهد من المسلمين في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها يا رب العالمين، وردنا والمسلمين إليك ردا جميلا، واجعلنا اللهم مصلحين يا مصلح الصالحين، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Before we go for Iqamah, a part of Islah, this is something that's very relevant. Tomorrow night, we have one of the Conservative Party's candidates, Mayor Brown, that will be here talking. We don't endorse people, we don't endorse parties. As charities, we don't do that. And I'm not doing that today. What I'm asking you to do is this, though. You need to get involved, you need to hear, and you need to actually have influence and impact on who is going to be representing Canada on a federal level and on any levels higher or lower. This is a part of your responsibility. We cannot just look away and then wonder later, why is it that the head of this party or that party is someone who has no respect for Muslims or Muslims' rights at all? You heard the word Islamicism a number of years ago. It scared everyone. We all had our backs up against the wall because that is a word that is defining us as a community, as a race of people with a faith as a problem. And that is hate speech. Why? Because as Muslims, we don't get involved. What I ask you to do is to come out and listen, and then be a part of choosing the leaderships of the different parties. You don't have to necessarily even vote for a specific party, but we have to make sure that those who are leading these parties, these political parties in Canada, are people who understand and respect us as human beings at least. Can we ask for less than that? Ma'qul that this is how weak we can't even ask for that, for someone just to respect our existence as human beings. And then it's on us if we don't actually take steps to make sure and ensure that that's going to happen. So it's upon all of us to come out. It's going to be after Isha tomorrow. Come out and listen to what these people have to say, and make sure that you're a part, that you do your research, you get to know these candidates, and that you're a part of making that choice. As a Canadian, you're helping make the right choice about who's going to be heading any of these major parties, so that regardless of who runs the country next year, in a couple of years, it's going to be someone who at least sees us as equal human beings with equal rights, and not as a disease. But this is the Harper years aren't that far away. You know what it was back then. And you know what we're living right now, and you have a responsibility, just like I do, to ensure that the coming years are going to be proper, that we're going to be respected, and we're going to be dealt with in a fair manner. So I would ask you all to come out tomorrow. If you can't be here physically, at least listen virtually, but make sure that you are a part of this and that you're part of these decisions. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
دائما أبدا لا إله إلا الله. استووا اعتدلوا استقيموا لا تختلفوا حاذوا بالمناكب سدوا الخلل لا تدعوا فرجا بينكم سووا الصف. تسوية الصف من إقام الصلاة تم الأول فالأولين في أيدي إخوانكم. Shoulder to shoulder, ankle to ankle. Make sure that the line is straight. Finish the line ahead of you before you start a new one. Stow. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. فاستقم كما أمرت ومن تاب معك ولا تطغوا إنه بما تعملون بصير ولا تركنوا إلى الذين ظلموا فتمسكم النار وما لكم من دون الله من أولياء ثم لا تنصرون وأقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات ذلك ذكرى للذاكرين واصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. فلولا كان من القرون من قبلكم أولو بقية ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض إلا قليلا ممن أنجينا منهم واتبع الذين ظلموا ما أترفوا فيه وكانوا مجرمين وما كان ربك ليهلك القرى بظلم وأهلها مصلحون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. Two quick announcements. First one, the fatair are sold in the gym. There are two lines and it'll be quick in and out, inshallah. Fatair is in the gym. The second announcement is the Muslim Expo is taking place today, tomorrow, and Sunday at the Western Fair at the Agriplex. There are products being sold. There are bouncy castles for kids. There are all kinds of activities taking place at the Muslim Lifestyle Expo at the Western Fair. Jazakumullah khair.